Greetings, dear friends. Welcome to the Creative Lab space. We meet every month together in a circle to work in our creative laboratory, invoking the awakening the souls of our nations. I welcome you on behalf of the Hikal group from Jerusalem, Klanschale group from Germany, and the 2025 initiative. Today, Uta, while present with us here, she will stay mostly silent as she lost her voice, and that gives opportunity for the group to step in, sharing responsibility of leading our work today. And I invite Helen to take us on this journey today.
Thank you, Alexander, and welcome, friends. In our nation's lab, the spiritual students from many nations come together every month as a council of elders in training. We practice skills towards soul-guided planetary stewardship and try them out on various world issues. We practice taking on our role as the Planetary Ajna Center as best as we can. As best as we can at this point of world need, at the threshold to the pivotal year of 2025. We practice to become conscious co-workers with hierarchy as they will assess the situation on Earth and formulate a plan for humanity for the next 100 years. Like children imitating their parents, we imitate hierarchy. So we practice assessing the world situation too. Trying out ashramic vision, doing our best. We practice using our capacity of discernment. Discernment, a great goal for Scorpio. Scorpio develops clear vision by raising the lower forces out of muddy waters into the air. Discernment. In the work with collective entities, we encounter our emotional reactions and our identifications with this, or that collective entity, or this and that thought form. These need to be loosened and raised so that we can see clearly the wider context and the underlying dynamics. Discernment. Wherever we still have strong reactions, like pain, anger, judgment, we know that we don't see the whole picture. One way of raising, or at least pacifying these reactions, is to call in the love of Christ, the grace of Christ for ourselves and for all involved. Making the situation golden. The keynote of the fourth ray may also be a guideline. The two parts are one, and my heart rests in the center. When our heart rests in the center, beyond being pulled into polarity, our mind is free to discern. Discernment is a willing process and needs a clear decision. The will to sharpen our antennas, the will to become even more receptive, the will to enter deeper into ashramic vision, and the will to bear the consequences of this deepening. At this moment, we have a formidable opportunity. Mars and Pluto are in opposition and will be in opposition until April 2025. This provides a highly charged dynamic field of tension. Mars now brings things forward with a fiery will to act. And Pluto sets in motion a totality of transmutation. We can easily imagine what this explosive combination might bring onto the world stage and what opportunity and challenge it offers us. The opportunity and the challenge to keep detached from any outer form it may take and utilize consciously the incredible incoming power flow of this opposition. The opportunity to stay focused on the highest goals, to hold fast to our inner observer attitude, and then sharply discerning and bringing life to our intuition, to be free to dare. Daring to ask what still must work itself out. What is to be destroyed? What is to be created? Be free to dare. Remaining humble with any findings. Yes, but dare to be mental workers. Dare to use the light of discernment. Thought forms. Thought forms are causal. And on to you, Sabina.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. Let us now, in meditation, look at a few thought forms and how they express outwards. So, this will be a working meditation. Let us withdraw now our attention into inner stillness, breathing deeply, grounding in our body, breathing with the earth, standing in love and clarity and freedom as the soul. Let us open our consciousness to the call for planetary psychosynthesis. Following this call, let us now make our way to the beautiful building set in nature, which we already know well. Entering into the quiet and clear and spacious council chamber of elders in training. Sense the atmosphere in the chamber, the geometrical harmony. We are taking our places as elders in training in geometric order as part of the one planetary server. Let's take a moment to embody this function. In the center of the chamber, we visualize the flame of our combined, sustained will to love. And we tune our hearts to it, holding together this space of intent, sustained love. Tuning now into the mental space of the council chamber. A calm, clear, lighted space. It vibrates to the rate of the Ajna center of the planet. Through this vibration, we are linked with our fellow world workers in all nations. Let us be holding our shared light space stable, being aware of four great Deva beings helping us to do so, one at each direction, at the north, at the south, at the east, at the west. We align with the ashramic co-workers who support and guide this work. With them, we enter into alignment with hierarchy as a whole, standing between Shambhala and humanity. From this vantage point, let us now look at the human family. Let all appearing reactivity melt in the golden grace of the Christ. With our heart at rest, we tune our mental antennas to the clear and high space of hierarchy, letting our highest instinct and intuition streamline to it. Expanding, refining, focusing. And now let's look at the mental sphere of the planet. Let us together focus our light of discernment on a few following examples of thought forms whose reflections are playing out on the world stage at the moment. Just calmly observing, neutral. Let's look together at the following examples, starting with the thought form of democracy. Democracy, see it in its ideal form. And now observe the outer actual condition of democracy today. So let's go on and now screen on the thought form of national sense of self. See its healthy, intended form. And now see some of its unhealthy reflections downward, expressing both too much and too little of it, a national sense of self. Together, let us look now at the large thought construct of international law, a major human achievement. And let's look at its present outer reflection. In the following, let us take a look now at a still in function thought form that says, war is politics by other means. And focus now on a new thought form, creating platforms, spaces for listening and learning to understand a new multipolar world, a new world in the making. Let us take some time for this. And step by step, releasing now all discerning efforts, letting them go, just staying another moment wide and open and in humble, high receptivity for this that needs and wants to come and to flow in. Receive. Gently, very gently, releasing now the high receptivity and slowly bringing our focus back into the council chamber. Take a moment to let the high impressions settle into the group mind. Remaining for another moment in each other's presence, resting and replenishing in our refined shared space. And when we are ready, we return to our personal grounding, taking a minute, our time to note down any impressions in preparation for our sharing. So, having made some notices, we can come to an end of writing down our impressions. And let us open the floor now for sharing our impressions, keeping the meditative attitude, trying to be brief and synthetic. Let us hold a moment of silence after each sharing to let it settle into our shared space. And thank you, Sasha, for accompanying us through the sharing.
Thank
This
you.
is Margot speaking from Canada. See all humanity as one. We move forward in unity with hierarchy. Way will open in alignment with the will of Shambhala. Allow.
Thank you, Margot. Maria Cristina wrote in a comment earlier, humility versus daring. And
I didn't. Hello.
Yes, Maria Cristina.
I just saw that. I'm quite surprised to see that I wrote there.
Oh,
But indeed, I in my usual fashion, had some trouble with, missed a little of the beginning, but to dare, when I have been thinking so strongly of humility during these days of Scorpio, when we lift the Hydra into the air, as the labor of Hercules indicates, all our illusions and glamours we overcome by coming to our knees and able to get a foothold or handhold, I suppose, and to lift that you don't battle on the same ground on which all of this fear and pride and cruelty and etc. exist, but you lift into the air by coming to the knees. To I picture getting a real underneath the belly of the monster, the Hydra, in order to lift into the air, requiring that humility of the little self, and then to dare to be an outpost of hierarchy, to come out of the closet, perhaps you would say. Those were my thoughts, and there you go, humility versus daring. But I will add only one other thought that I had in creating an alternative space, a new world in the making, and create at this time, I would say etherically, begin to create etherically where Europe, Asia, and Africa meet seemed a likely spot to start, to build a beautiful space rising from the ashes, perhaps a phoenix rising from the ashes that of the devastation there to be found. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Maria Cristina. Really deep thoughts. Humility and daring And as you said in Scorpio, to lift from the mud, the darkness into the air with humility on your knees and dare to do it. It's courage. It's humble courage, isn't it? And to push the boundaries that keep you in the mud. Thank you for those thoughts, Maria Cristina.
I'm just so grateful to be together.
Me too. Thank you.
I'd like to go back to Margot's sharing, based on what Maria Cristina offered about humility versus daring. We developed skill and practice of recognizing being ourselves on the periphery of the hierarchy, recognizing their presence. And my sense is that it takes quite a daring to align with the will of Shambhala. We don't really know what that means in practice, but there is definite call for us to tune in with that will, listening, actively listening. So thank you, Margot.
This is Deborah from the US. And I had two overlapping impressions. First, contemplating the true miracle of the creation of international law after the devastation of World War II, which was overlighted and inspired by hierarchy, and to which humanity, after much suffering, was magnetically attracted. And over the years, we seem to have lost a recognized magnetic center for the true functioning of international law. And when I sat with recognition of that need, the symbol came into my mind of the point within the circle and the understanding that true international law in the future must come from true consciousness, which can be symbolized by the point in the center, the monad in the center of every thing that lives, every human being, every nation, group, and indeed the globe. So that magnetic point may be what is emerging from the Shambhala impact. The logos declaring, I am the point within the circle for all that lives. And the second thought was that humanity as a whole must become a conscious body receptive to the inspiration, the goal to become a part of a systemic and galactic council. Those were my thoughts.
Probably in a way we can say that this manifestation of the idea of international laws after the World War II, as Deborah is saying, is that probably was the first sound. And as we know from the rules of white magic, there should be the second sound that will bring the actual ideal into manifestation. We see now withering of the law in the world. And the international law, unfortunately, is not an exception. But it's important to hold that point in the center as you offer this beautiful image, that recognition of the higher laws that define our human laws as we express them. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you to all of the speakers today. You brought to mind that when international law manifested at the time of the International Criminal Court, a great new vision opened up that takes a long time in human terms. Two parts of it were different. It represented the truth that the law applies to all. There is no immunity, regardless of position, whether it's appointed or elected. There is no immunity. And the second that applied for the first time in human history was mercy. There would be no death penalty, regardless of the crime. And those two principles, that while they're universal, they were not universally ever grounded in practicality, and they are not yet. However, it brings to mind the reason we love to be together is because of the gap between that which is emerging and that in which we live. And the gap always needs a bridge. So we know we've been mandated to be bridge builders. And so perhaps our capacity to be more effective bridge builders is to, recalling what Maria Christina offered, is to recognize that fractals have it all, and we are indeed fractals. We have the monadic spark within, and yet it must catch fire in our being together, not just physically or even electronically, but being truly of one mind and one heart that looks to the breakthroughs and holds and kneels and believes and trusts. The time will come. It's harder to do in the place of setback, and yet a setback is really only appearance. So regardless of what we feel in our astral bodies, when we take time to meditate together, another feeling arises. It's not so much based on faith as it is on trust. So as Alex said, we don't know in language, in rules, Shambhala's will, but we have an instinct for it. We have an impulse, an intuition. And every one of our vibrations counts. So there is a wisdom in what was said earlier about the relationship between rays 1, 2, and 3. They too need to find right relationship of activity and stillness, the relationship between love and impersonal love, inclusive love. It includes those who see us as enemies. And the will, determined will that chooses to hold that gap because the time will come. Thank you.
Martha, you're leaving me. This is Helen. You're leaving me speechless with realizing every time the bridging power of group work. And when we meet like this, it just gives like an affirmation. Bless you. Thank you.
I will read a couple comments that share it in the chats. First is from Marty. Imperfection will be there unless you remove it by seeing only the perfection. Definitely holding division is the most important task, or one of the most important tasks that we as the World Service have. Seeing the perfection, recognizing the archetype that is magnetically seeking to express in the world, and as Marta said, actively working for that. That's the second part of our responsibility. So to see and to act. Thank you, Marty. And another comment from Carlos Emilio from Argentina. We developed the new Aquarian institutions. which emerge in energy, force, and substance through integration of the soul and personality of the new group of world servers. Naturally, as each aspect of the group fulfills its initial intended purpose. The impression arose in our group meditation of the new institution of the planetary citizen. Yes, it's this recognition of our planetary citizenship is one of the most powerful thought forms that's become more and more magnetic in the world. And definitely all those who recognize themselves as members of the new group of world service, we contributing into further magnetization of this thought form. It's a long way, but we already in this journey for quite a while. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Carlos Emilio. And Margot, as always, is taking notes. So if when you share, please keep in mind and be moderate in your speech speed that Margot could take for us notes. Thank you, Margot. Over to you, Anne.
Anne from Victoria, Canada. And I, like Deborah, had cascading thoughts coming through. And the synthetic message for me was this: this is a true test for humanity. I sense this as the last gasp of personality being the ultimate and bridging ourselves into soul consciousness, doing this as group. And when I was looking at the ideals in each of these perspectives and states, the message came through: stay in the fiery heart. Do not be knocked down by all the distractions at the moment. What is most important for us as humanity is to stay coherent within the unified field as group conscious developers of a new era. So it starts with each one of us, and then it grows into our council, and it grows into multiple groups, and then into a global unified group that can hold this note. And as much as we can, and as often as we can, to be the expression of this in the world is what will bridge the gap. So thank you, everyone. This has been very inspiring at a very difficult moment, not only politically, but in every other way. We no longer are separate nations. We are together as one humanity, one human family. Thank you.
Yes, especially at this time of Scorpio cycle, and as we are now almost already in the ebb of the full moon, and Sun passes Scorpio, and we can feel this intensity of the raging in a battle for humanity, with the dweller threshold and the angel of presence battling for humanity. And in a way, all of us who are on the forefront of this battle, we sense the tension and we sense the struggle and pain, and exactly as you're saying, and it's holding the focus and not giving into despair, and recognizing that it's the darkest night is right before the dawn. And as we expect and we call the return of the Christ, forces of materialism, they recognize that approach, and they do all they can to knock us out of our stable and steady focus.
I would just like to add something. I posted their Peace Be Still on the chat, and that's been in my mind today with my meditations. And it came through truly as thinking of the story in the Bible when when Jesus Christ was in the boat with his apostles, and they became so fearful for their lives because a storm came up. And he is the one who stepped out of the boat onto the water and said, "Peace, be still." So, whereas Anne had given the analogy of fire, this is another for cleansing and for settling things down. Water also, the idea of water and the power that each of us has in the Christ within. And one other connection I made today, again, after posting imperfection will be there unless you remove it by seeing only the perfection. That perfection is the point in the center that Deborah mentioned, and that others have mentioned in other ways. The perfection is always there. It already is.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. Ben shared in the chat, only awakened humans have free will for choice. Our task for democracy to flourish is to facilitate awakening.
Yes, Jill here. I was thinking more along the same lines as that, because I'd put that we humans must use more discernment when we choose leaders, because they must stand for truth and compassion for human and all life. And war must now be viewed as outdated and wrong. We have to prove that we are actually moving forwards with evolution.
and forgiveness should be seen as a strength, not weakness.
Thank you, Jillian.
Yes, dear friends, looking at the time, is there anything else that needs to be expressed, that wants to be shared in our group chalice?
I'd like to give thanks to the facilitators, Klangshala, Kachal, and 2025 for providing these nations labs, stepping stones for us, indeed, upon our approach to Shambhala. A couple of brief thoughts regarding democratic participation. I feel it begins with us, that as we demonstrate our capacity for group sharing and alignment to hierarchy and the divine potential, as that meets the need, the demand, and as we practice group decision making, we're putting a true democracy into action through our group work. That will magnetize and precipitate into we the people. I feel that national identities are really giving ground to the sense of one humanity, to the realization of brotherhood. I feel that that which is precipitating is a receptivity to recognize, resolve, and integrate the shadow, the other, and that the true demand is a new state of consciousness and being. I feel that the approach to Shambhala comes through that point at the center of the circle within each of us. We may call it the monad, the spark within each of us. But I also feel that at this time of planetary need, where the problems cannot be resolved at the level of they have been created, we need to, if we can, and we're willing and can dare, to align with the higher triangle, which is the Lord of the world, Shambhala, the Avatar synthesis, and the Christ. The Avatar was brought to our attention following World War II. It's more than 50 years since that was brought to our awareness. And with his aid and with the Lords of Liberation, the one planetary server can become effective and causal to the world's problems and needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you, dear friends, for the deep sharing of your thoughts, of your inspirations, and listening to all of your precious words and thoughts, I really had this picture of the famous stone which is put in the water and creating big rings. And during the meditation, I felt that receiving and destroying and creating is like a wave that is happening at the same time. And this including also the shadows is coming always bigger and bigger. And I feel all your thoughts coming from the same point, throwing the stones in the ocean of humanity. Thank you very much, all elders in training as planetary citizens of the future. And let us hold now, as a family of nations, all that we have touched, we have heard, and we have received in our group chalice for a process of absorption, of transmutation and expression. So let us offer our group work back up to the divine plan and return to our personal grounding. Over to you, Alexander, for some further announcements.
Thank you, Sabina. Before making some announcements, just want to share one more thought. I see we have time. Impressions that came from our meditation about democracy as a thought form. We all recognize that at this time, democracy is going through quite a challenge of functioning in the new reality of technological society that we living in now. The information technological revolutions, not even one, but several of those that we experienced in the last few decades, made our world a very different place. And democracy as we known it before is not becomes less and less functional. And I think it's important for us as world service hold in our recognition that the entire humanity is quite on the spectrum of consciousness, from very basic, primitive, even we can say, level of consciousness to quite advanced consciousness of the masters. And we are somewhere in between. We as humanity that live at this time, and I'm reflecting on what Jill shared, that we definitely recognize that there is no place for war in this world. And yet there are many of us, I mean humanity, who still live and function on that level of consciousness where war is quite acceptable. And within this spectrum of consciousness, we, being in a democratic society, we have to recognize that any result of any democratic election, it's a snapshot of our collective consciousness. And we have to recognize it as that's the field of actuality in which we function. And that our work is actually to work for awakening and expansion of consciousness and humanity. Our work is not about political battles. And regardless how we perceive political dynamics in our own nations, our focus is on kingdom of heaven, because our work is to bring that ideal, that perfection that we recognize into this imperfect world. It's not our work to fight in this world. And it's going back to what Christ said, that give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what God's. So it's my reflection on democracy as it is now. And thank you, friends. And now I will put the hat of the announcer and invite you to join all the programs of the 2025 initiative you can see on the screen. Daily and weekly meditations. And let us especially use this period of the full moon, the solar festival, as the most potent period of time for our meditative work, aligning with the hierarchy and with the higher will of Shambhala. So please join us tomorrow for the Scorpio Festival gathering in the garden. This our monthly program where we together reflect on astrological qualities of each sign. But this time we would invite the wider group to bring own questions into the group chelas, and through group reflection look together into the work ahead of us. And we would appreciate your contribution. I mean the coordination group of the 2025 initiative, as those contributions will help us to form our work for the next year. We see it as a part of our annual retreat where we invite you to join. And one announcement that is not on the screen, but I remind us about opportunity to align with the community of old meditating groups at the exact time of the full moon, as a way for us to recognize our wholeness and oneness within the living organism of one planetary server, and thus preparing for what is to come next year, standing together as one planetary server. Much love and much gratitude.
Much love and gratitude.
See you next month. Thank you so much to all.